What is up, y'all? This is Austin Pegram, host of the Fitness That Fits You podcast, coming to you today with another reminder, you all. Be good to yourself, okay? Whatever that looks like in the way of self-care and self-love, make sure that you are doing it so that you can be good to yourself. I know it sounds repetitive, but that's because I'm going to continue saying it and will always sound repetitive. Okay. I have with me today, you all, a very special individual. She is a sponsor of the Louisville Women's Wellness Retreat. We've been looking for a yoga instructor ever since, we kind of got back on the ball here after things kind of lightened up a bit with the pandemic. And that's been the one area that has just kind of escaped us. And luckily, we were able to find a very unique individual as that yoga instructor. Tavi, please let the people know who you are, what you do. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast.
Hi, Austin. Thank you so much for having me. So I am a 200-hour registered yoga teacher, and I specialize in trauma-informed teaching, not teachers. And I work with yoga for runners at a couple different running places around town, as well as being an elite ultra marathon runner and road runner for the Fleet Feet team. And probably the most important credential of all that I should have put first, I have a daughter that is turning 1 in 2 weeks. So I'm not sure when this podcast is launching. She may be 1 at that time, but that's just a new title to add to my resume. So
cool. Very nice. Yeah, absolutely. So how long, first of all, I definitely want to get you to talk a little bit more about your running history. How long have you been a yoga instructor, teacher, and how long have you been so involved with running in such a competitive way? How long has this been going
on? Yeah, my running journey, when I was in kindergarten, there was a race in the elementary school for the Derby, and I beat everybody when I was like a little kindergartner. So I would say early on, and unfortunately I tried pretty much every other sport and I have no coordination. So you can do yoga and not be coordinated, friends. So pretty much from then on, I started cross country in 2nd grade and ran cross country and track in college, high school. And I didn't get burned out. And so I am even still running today, which you don't often see with people that had to do 100-mile weeks in college. So obviously I love it, maybe even a bit obsessed. So
very cool. I was sharing a bit with you before we actually got on the episode, but my experience with running has definitely been a bit different. I did run track in cross country back in middle school and high school, but I did get burnt out. I became more of like a basketball and soccer player, but I've always kind of looked up to those individuals that stuck with it, because out of all the sports that I played, like, it just felt like one of the hardest things to be like very good at running. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I have to credit, especially Mark Hopping, if you listen to this, my coaches along the way and my coach in college, for just making it fun and attainable instead of being like, if you don't do this, I'll never talk to you again. I never really had an angry coach like that. So maybe that's why I'm still running.
Nice. It's all about the teachers, the parents and the teachers. They have a big impact on what you end up, falling in love with. And then I may have missed it, but your yoga, how long have you been a teacher of yoga?
So 3 years ago, I got certified, and so with all the running I was doing, admittedly, I started practicing yoga because it was a great form of cross training and injury prevention. So I just practiced quite a bit. And then I think about yoga, not a competitive sport, right? You leave your competitive edge at the door when you walk into a yoga studio. So, right, I'm a type A personality, easier said than done. I was like, I'm going to be the best yogi. And it's just not about that. So I'm competitive. Through my teacher training, I eventually decided I liked yoga so much I wanted to teach it to others. And so through that, I realized, like, this looks different for every body and everyone, depending even on the day. So I got certified 3 years ago, and I think I've been practicing yoga for about 5 years total. So honestly, it's pretty new to me.
Okay. Relatively, I guess, new, right? Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that's awesome. It's funny you mentioned the competitiveness. This is just a side note, but that's one thing that I struggle to do when I walk into a yoga studio is to like kind of drop this like go hard, go fast like mentality when when I walk into the studio, because that's like so used to that's so like close to what I'm used to doing, So any pointers on being able to drop that ego and that competition at the door?
I mean, for my students that have taken my classes, I put us all in Samastitihi, stand to attention pose at the beginning of every practice. And I say, close your eyes, stop looking at the person on the mat next to you, in front of you, or comparing yourself to the person that you were yesterday or tomorrow. You just need to focus on your own mat, your own little rubber slice of the studio. So a lot of times people maybe just need that reminder, but easier said than done when, the person in the hot yoga studio next to you drops into full splits or like a straight up handstand with one hand. Because that was a bit of teacher training as well, is like, oh, wow, I'm not the best one in the room. And it's not about that. Like, that was a good part of teacher training, is that everybody is just in a different place depending on like, well, if I did a 20-mile run yesterday, I'm probably not going to be able to do a half pigeon as well as if I was, refreshed and recovered. So.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I do plan on just listening to you. My mind's blown. That's hella perspective right there. I do plan on coming to be in one of your classes. But that sounds like life, honestly. It sounds like life, and how like that's essentially you would transfer that over to life. It's just you and your mat. I love it. Very cool. Oh yeah, Tavi. All right. I'm excited. We've got some stuff to talk about here. You've already given us some great perspective and some knowledge here today. So thanks thus far. I'm going to give you a couple more things here when we dive in a little bit more. Okay. Yeah. So you all, just to continue kind of touching on this, Tavi is going to be a sponsor of the retreat. We are going to have an activity involving yoga. So, an outdoor yoga class. Obviously, there's going to be a few people that are still being pretty mindful. It's only April, about the pandemic and things of that nature. So there will be plenty of opportunity for space and having our own area, et cetera, and being able to practice safely while we are outdoors. But we'll also be having Tavi there to participate in the discussion-based activities as well. Leading into the following day. And a big part of that is due to Tavi's, as you've already heard, you all, unique perspective on just life and yoga and the mindfulness required to be in that space. And it goes a little bit deeper than that. Tavi, I know that, amongst, trying to learn a little bit more about you and what it is that you do, we also learned that you have an awesome, very unique, very, a much needed perspective on, weight loss or weight loss culture rather, and, fitness culture and movement culture and things like that. And I'd like to kind of dive in and really have a good conversation about that, because I think that there'll be some people there that will kind of be struggling with the more negative side of that culture, if you will. If that makes sense. I may have that question could have been one. I don't know if that was really a question. Do you understand? You got what I'm saying, right?
It was a thought.
Okay.
Yes. All right, we're done. No.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it was definitely more of a thought. But I'm very, very excited to actually have conversation about this thought with you, Tavi. So kind of share what that perspective is, and then we can kind of just hone in on that. I'm excited.
Okay, so yes, a few years ago, I realized that it was really important to make my journey personal and my story relatable to people, because if you just come from this holier than thou perspective, or just, I'm going to tell you, you need to love your body, it doesn't really, it's not very tangible. So my middle school years, I was in and out of treatment at an eating disorder recovery center, out of the hospital, and just viewed exercise as punishment for food, or even just an addiction, to the point where I had to run it, and I was like 11, 12, had to run like 8 miles a day, like cross country practice. And then I would run in the morning, and then I would run around my neighborhood. I was doing 2 a day, 3 a days, maybe getting 300 calories. It was really bad. And so I'm really grateful, because at that point I was a minor. And so I had intervention, kind of didn't even know what was going on, but was flown out on a plane to Arizona and spent almost a full year there. And when I came back, I realized that one of the key integral pieces that was missing out of the treatment was they talked about food nonstop for almost a year. They did not even touch on exercise. So the tools in my toolkit were just empty when it came to that. And so I thought, like, I'm not the only one. Lots and lots of people struggle with eating disorders, or just disordered eating. Or if we look at a picture of ourselves, or ourselves in the mirror, shout out to those people that are like, yeah, I'm looking great. But a lot of us are like, ew, delete that. Don't post that, now more than ever. So now I'm really rambling. I don't even think I've taken a breath. But what is our relationship with exercise? It should be something that we enjoy. I know that sounds crazy, but if you like Zumba, do a Zumba class. If you like running, go for a run. But if you hate running and you're training for a marathon, I've encountered this with people that I've worked with, and they're like, I don't like running. It's like, okay, but what do you like? Okay, well then do that. So I've worked with folks in recovery, yoga for recovery class. A lot of them ended up being, and I'm obviously not going to say any names. I was surprised to see a lot of them were male, first of all, break that stigma. And a lot of them were wrestlers or bodybuilders. And they had somebody show them, essentially, this is how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. Don't eat anything, run around in a garbage bag, or all the different stories that I've heard were terrifying. One man's heart even stopped because for 72 hours, he drank 5-hour energy drinks and trying to get ready for a competition to weigh in. And so check check what you're labeling exercise as, and if it has kind of a negative connotation with it. I've even changed it to mindful movement for people that just need to not even use the word exercise. I understand that. So I don't know if that answered your question at all. I think I just said a small level.
No, that answered my question quite a bit, So I think, and I think that's very important that you even brought that up, because, I think a lot of people, and I gotta be honest, I've been guilty of this at times too, like as an individual, but a lot of people, they kind of view exercise as, I don't want to say kind of like a cheat code, but, at times, like, let's say you have a night to where, you've maybe indulged, right? And so you have this negative view, or this negative connotation or relationship rather with food, or an unhealthy one rather. And so you feel like you have to use exercise to combat for the relationship that you had with food the night prior. And so when you're doing that, then the exercise itself, you're not really doing it for, the reasons that you should be, so that we can live longer and live well, with the people that we love, and, be healthy, et cetera. It goes more to, all right, this is kind of punishment, or it's a means so that I can, feed another unhealthy habit, and so and so it's just like kind of a cycle. You never have an initial healthy relationship with the food, and you never have an initial healthy relationship with the exercise. And that's like one thing that I've seen. That's one thing that I've seen. One thing that I've been guilty of in the past, before kind of, diving in on it and doing some self-reflection. And that's one thing that I've seen and still see oftentimes with my own clients. And so I really try and make this effort to, shift that perspective if I can. And so what you said is obviously in regards to, mindful movement is, the step toward doing that. So to answer your question, yes, he answered my question. Yes,
With
he answered my
a few
question.
words. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's very cool. So tell me, when you got to that point, like when you got back from, your intervention, and I would imagine your food or your relationship with food was, in a healthier spot. How did you kind of break through that limit, that barrier with exercise, and be able to look at it as more of a positive thing for your body? How did you get to that point?
I'm not gonna say it was like a light bulb moment, or one day I got home and I was like, this is what I need to do. This makes sense. It was definitely years of trial and error. And I would say after I graduated college even, and started, that elusive unicorn, the Boston Marathon, is kind of like a marathon runner's rite of passage. When you start training for a marathon, you can't, aid stations and other things where you have to take in calories during the race. I mean, my friends, some of them were like concerned. I would go 26 miles and just have like some water and stuff. I wasn't making the connection between nutrition and fuel and pre and post. And so I would say I was probably 21 and trying really hard to qualify for boss. So pretty recently, before, and people listening to this that know me, will be like, yeah, I remember when Tavi would cross the finish line and just like sit on the ground and feel like so bad. And then when I started eating, which sounds so silly, I was like, oh yeah, you can like finish a marathon and then go out with your friends and still have energy and have fun. And like, obviously calories are energy. But yeah, I think it was when I had a goal and I realized like it's more important to eat and go to Boston than it is to, at that point, just be ingrained in negative habits. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very cool, Tavi. This is why, and this is why we kind of, we more so need you along here on the retreat, because there is such a culture, with, the picking up the weights and losing weight or getting jacked, if you will. And, there's so much more to it than that. So I really cannot wait for you to be able to share your discussions with everyone else. And this is something we can piggyback on, obviously, but I've got, a few clients. I actually addressed them on this matter yesterday. And, this may be a teaching moment for me. You're more than likely a lot better at addressing this than I am. But all three of the women in the room that I was training, they all look great. They all look great. But each one of them looked different, and they all wanted to look better than they do. And they used one of the women in the room, who I guess stereotypically, or, according to Instagram or the magazines, would look more like the normal person. Okay. And so the other two compared themselves to her, while she was in her head also there to look better because of some of the things that she felt like she needed to be better with, And so in terms of their bodies, they were all in this place of, not recognizing, that they're already great. And so I can only imagine, that initial thought, that initial mindset, maybe, kind of leading into some potential, negative habits, or I'm sorry, unhealthy habits and negative mindset with exercise and food, because it's all geared toward making them a better model of themselves, as opposed to appreciating the model that they are now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all like, it's all perspective, right? I have to recognize my privilege as an athlete who's been an athlete for years and years and years and years and years. And that sort of thing has never been a problem for me. And so I have to recognize that. But it's tough to, it's tough to meet those people in the middle. It's all a learning process. It's tough to meet those people and figure out how to remind them that, hey, all of you all actually look great. You look fantastic. You just look different, and if you feel this way about you, and that, your relationship with food and exercise is going to be with, changes the way you feel about you, then are we doing those things for the right reasons, and are we doing them in a healthy manner? It set my mind on a big whirlpool. I'm sure that you've seen that plenty of times.
Yeah, definitely. It's making me think of, I listened to a podcast on this, and I can't give specifics like dates or names, but I remember in like colonial Latin America, like obviously a very long time ago, but maybe it's still relevant in ways. There was a group that had all of their women weigh 140 pounds. That was like this. I mean, this was a long time ago, but the standard back then is just whatever realization came to, that everybody was supposed to be 140. And if you think about that, we're not all the same height. We don't all have the same metabolism. We don't. I mean, for some people, they might not even, get their period at that weight. I don't know. It's just kind of silly, because I think even today with like clothing sizes and pant sizes and stuff, like, not that we use 140 as the marker, but you know what I mean? Like, they're still lingering, like, because that sounds so ridiculous when I say it out loud, but yeah, I'm sure they were all different heights, different, metabolisms, different eating habits, different lifestyles. So yeah.
Right. I wish there just wasn't this idea of it needing to be like a, this is how everyone should look. I wish there wasn't that. Our society probably, it'll take a while to get there. I know that social media, of course, plays a huge role in how people think about themselves. Absolutely. That's why I plan on my daughter. She's 10, and I gave her a little like tiny, those little like old school, not even the flip phones, but like just little old school phones with the little number key on it, and all you can do is really text and call people with the T9. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so because she lives with her mother, on a more often basis, or not often basis, but a more frequent basis, we have like a custody. She's with me when she's with me, but when she's not, I like to talk to her. So, I got her that phone, and I knew that that's all she really needed. But she came home about a weekend ago, and she had a like iPhone, and my jaw just dropped. Like my heart like stopped for a second, because I'm like, all right, that means more access to YouTube, more access to Instagram, to the websites and things like that, where you're going to see these things and think about how you're supposed to look. And oh my gosh, I just started going crazy. I started going nuts, and it kind of like the trainer came out in me as a father, and trying to be like, hey, no, this is how, you should look. You should do it for this reason, that, those sorts of things, instead of just kind of being like a dad and just trying to direct her, with confidence. But at any rate, I digress. I was kind of talking about social media and its impact on us as human beings and how we feel about ourselves. Anytime I'm just lingering on too much, feel free to stop.
Well, I guess my question is, still have the iPhone?
She does. That's one of those things. I don't know if you've ever had like a, I don't know if you, well, I don't think so. I mean, you just have the one daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, there may be some people out there listening who have, some precarious situations, with previous partners. And so they're sharing custody with individuals, but there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen, and a lot of decision making, and a lot of just cordial interaction, for things to go smoothly. But yeah, that's one of those things that just we didn't agree on, rather. So that's still an ongoing battle, but I have faith that we'll come out on top. At any rate, okay, cool. I've bounced on long enough. I want to utilize your time wisely. So when we're at the event, Tavi, I definitely want to. We know that you're a yoga teacher and instructor, but I've also like been curious as to like what kind of yoga you teach, more consistently. Like which one are you like really good at, doing as your own practices that kind of come out in your teaching? I know there's a few different kinds of yoga, correct?
Oh yeah, pick your flavor. There's so many different kinds these days. I mean, there's yoga with goats and hot yoga and, just all sorts of very niche kinds of yoga. I don't even know if you can get trained in goat yoga. That would be a long 200 hours.
What is that? I don't understand. Why is that a thing? Is there a reason for the goat?
A good question. I've taken one goat yoga class. If there are goat yoga enthusiasts in your listening audience, maybe they know more about it. But yeah, they just kind of climb on you and occasionally poop on you. And I think my goat had some stomach problems. But yeah, we try to do like a photo shoot with a baby goat. And anyway, that's a whole different story.
So is that just like that's hilarious. So is there just like I would imagine I'm looking at it in two different ways. So, and we're gonna move on from this. I'm just so intrigued. So
that's not what by the way.
I'm like, I don't know if like maybe they're doing it with the goats because they're like soft and cuddly and it's designed to like kind of calm you down, or if it's more of like, they're a distraction. And so your goal is to stay focused and locked in on what you're doing. I don't know. I kind of take it as both ways there. I've never tried it, so I don't know.
Yeah, all both. Yeah, you're just kind of in a barn and they're walking around and like the ones that have done it before, like join in. It's kind of cute, but yeah.
Okay. So I can tell you, do you teach hot yoga?
I did, but I teach currently lukewarm yoga.
Okay.
And yeah, I was trained in power vinyasa and it was power vinyasa. So I can teach hot yoga, but kind of as a yoga instructor, especially in Louisville, it's pretty saturated with instructors and teachers. And so we all kind of find, which I mean, I think you do with anything in life, we've all kind of found our specialty. So for me, it's been yoga for runners and yoga for recovery. Then recently I have been teaching power core. So a lot of like core work because I really enjoy that. And so that's the one where we heat the room up just a little so that we are nice and stretchy and we can do things later on and we're not like super tight. So you think about putting your muscles as a rubber band, you put a rubber band in the freezer and try to stretch it, it might break. But if your rubber band is at room temp or it's like a little bit warm, it's going to be stretchy and go with things. So we're not over stretching, but we're also getting a good workout in and we're getting our sweat on as well. So
I love it. I've always been more of like a power vinyasa / like power core yoga person when I did go. So that's like, man, okay, I'm excited to take one of your classes. You're probably going to be, I guess, more toward the core / recovery sort of idea there at the retreat, I would imagine.
Yeah, we're going to be doing, well, it's after lunch. So we're kind of playing with the idea of doing like a rest and digest. So that's going to be more of like a reset recovery kind of yoga for mental health type. Because I feel like I just kind of play to what the people want. But for me, I got trained in power yoga at the same time as my teacher training. I was doing 200 hours of hot yoga and training for a almost 80-mile ultra marathon. So I got really burned out and kind of was like, all right, I'm going to teach more like restorative stuff. But then after a few months of that, I was like, yeah, I like the intense stuff. That's just personality. So I teach a little bit of everything, to be honest.
Nice. So when I've been in like a power vinyasa class, there's a lot of obviously the vinyasa flow, and a lot of times they're taking us through that vinyasa flow, trying to implement the floating aspect. and like going upside down and things like that, handstands, frogger or crow position and things like that. So are you like well endowed with those movements? Can you teach me a couple things?
Yeah, for sure. It's a juxtaposition as a endurance athlete because I had one of my Yoga for Runners students draw like a bunch of robots trying to touch their toes. And he was like, this is us in Yoga for Runners classes. But yoga is not about touching your toes. So for me, yes, I can run all the miles and I can also do hip openers. So it's all just about taking care of your body, but it does feel cyclical. Like I'll have my hips nice and open and then I'll go for a run and retighten everything. But, just getting a baseline. But yeah, every class that I do is going to include, we do inversions at the end because it gives you a chance to get that freshly oxygenated blood pumping throughout your body. You've just done the work and then you can just quite literally put your feet up and kind of work on those inversions wherever you're at. I'll guide people through a supported waterfall if they're just tired or towards the beginning, or I have people that can break out into like a full-on handstand if you just snap. So, everybody's meeting themselves where they're at. You can even do legs up the wall and just totally not do anything except just flushing yourself out there. So, yeah.
Oh man, I love it. Okay, I am so excited. I've been wanting to get back into yoga pretty heavily. I had a, you may actually, I would imagine you'll be able to help me out with this, but I was playing like soccer pretty heavily in addition to yoga, and the one issue with that I think is that for soccer there's also an aspect of some sport specific strength training that needs to take place as well. And that wasn't happening. And I was very, very flexible, very, very flexible. And I think I was a little too flexible and not enough not stable for the sport. And that led to injury. And just when I was ready to get back to yoga very, very intensely, the pandemic happened. So I have been missing out on my yoga and I want to get back to it. So thank God for meeting you because we're going to get back to it.
Yeah, I'll get your stable nice and strengthened.
Let's do it. You'll find out, Tavi, that I'm like very corny. And so my corniness could be a bit drawn out, but I appreciate your patience. Well, very cool, Tavi. So, I have very much enjoyed your perspective and your history and, the way that you approach movement now obviously is a testimony to your own experience. And I think that's exactly what we need there in terms of leadership at the retreat. So we're all very excited. I'm speaking for Holly as well and the remainder of the sponsors. We're very excited to have you there. So, excuse me. I want people to know where they can find you. But before we do that, do you have any like closing advice for individuals or closing statement for individuals, some direction?
I guess I can just send you all off with what I say towards the end of every class. Just remember that almost everything will work if you unplug it, including yourself, just for a few minutes. So.
Hey, I love it. Dropping bombs. I love it. Well, I appreciate you, Tavi, very much. I don't, you won't know that until I meet you in person.
No, we still have pandemics, just a lot of screen time.
yeah, right. Well, very cool, y'all. You heard it. Unplug, things will work. Unplug, things will work. Okay, it's okay. All right, awesome. So tell us where we can find you. I'm sure the people at this point are intrigued and excited to be in one of your yoga classes or just to reach out to you and talk to you. So let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I definitely forgot to plug myself right after you told me to do that. I just got excited with my IT quote. No, it's not really. I know nothing about computers. I'm on Instagram as @Tav_Wall. So Tav Wall. And then I'm teaching at Yoga on Baxter. Soon to be, I just finished my paperwork, so I can say soon to be teaching at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center. And I will be popping up all over in the community doing yoga for trail runners, yoga for runners, yoga for mother runners. That's an exciting development.
Ooh.
Yes, if you're a runner, just checking out my social media and seeing what kind of pop-ups and workshops are in store.
I love it. Okay, awesome. You all, so you know where to find, and you are on Insta and Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Insta and then Facebook as Tavi Tichenor.
Okay, cool. Tavi Tichenor. What's
That's
that?
my last name. That's my last name. It's a long story.
Okay. So we you can find Tavi on Facebook and on Instagram, you all. Okay. If you have any more questions about the retreat, obviously, you can reach out to Tavi as a sponsor, or you can reach out to any of the other sponsors. If you're curious about who those individuals are, be sure to check out our social media platforms. We've been posting up about these sponsors daily. You can also reach out to myself or Miss Holly Cropper as the two hosts of the retreat as well. I am on Instagram, austinftfy, and on Facebook at Austin Z. Pegram. Holly is on Instagram and Facebook as Holly Cropper or HC Events, Holly Cropper Events. Okay. The description, or rather the registration link, will be in this description, you all, for this particular episode, okay, as it has been for all the other sponsorship welcoming episodes as well. So if you're looking for more information, you can also click on that registration link before you register to look at, some of the things you can expect, itinerary, dates, times, etc. Okay, we're really excited, Tavi, again, to have you there at the retreat, and we're excited for all of you to be a part of the retreat. Okay, again, if you have any questions about that, just make sure to reach out to any of us. We're all very excited to provide you with any information you need. Okay, if you're listening to this in the morning, have a great rest of your day. If you're listening to this in the evening, have a great rest of your night and sleep well. Other than that, that's all I've got for you. Okay, Tavi, thanks very much again, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.